Awesome.
There we go.
All right. Amy, welcome to Life's Not Linear. I'm so excited to get to know you today. So if you could just take a minute, please, to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about your transition into college, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. My name is Amy Clinton, and I am a native Californian living on the East Coast, which is a totally different world. I think that, so we're talking about the transition. Do you want to know what I do and how I do it? Currently, yes. I own my own business. I am a nonprofit fundraising consultant.
Amazing.
So I help.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I work with nonprofits all over to do grant writing and infrastructure development and fundraising development planning and strategic planning. Pretty much whatever they need me to do in the world of fundraising, with the exception of working with boards, not my favorite, and events, also not my favorite. So I like the planning and grants and getting money for nonprofits that are doing amazing things. So, and if we talk about transitions from like college to the work world, so we kind of have to go back, and I think this was the story when I was talking with Humera about this issue. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I think Tara would love to talk to you." So I was telling her that I grew up in a family with 2 boys, and I was right in the middle, so I was the only girl. And my mother, unfortunately, was an alcoholic my entire life. She did okay when we were small, but as we got older, right around the time when I was really supposed to be developing into my own, getting into high school and then moving on, was when she started to go downhill. And so it was me being the only girl, and my parents moved me out of kindergarten into first grade when I was 5, because the teacher said she shouldn't be in kindergarten, she needs to move up. Well, which great, but I think from an social and emotional standpoint, that was a terrible idea for me personally.
Yeah, it's a big jump.
It's a big jump, and I was small and shy, very shy, and I really feel like that didn't do me any favors throughout my whole life. Because when I graduated from high school, I was 16, and
wow.
All my friends were so excited to leave and get out and go, and I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, move out? Like, that's insane. So I had very little support from a mom standpoint, and I feel like your mom is the one that's supposed to be like, come on, let's get this going. We're going to fill out applications and you're going to go to college. So I did that all myself. And I think one of the things you learn, and probably children of alcoholics probably understand this a little bit more than people who haven't had that experience, but I think what you learn is you rely on you. That's it. And asking for help isn't something that comes easy to you. So what that means is I sort of just made my own way into college and muddled around and sort of floated. And I had this grand idea that I was going to become a child psychologist. And I wanted to work with abused children, not because I had been physically abused in any, or, sexually abused or anything. I just wanted to work with kids in that way. But I wasn't focused enough at school. Nobody really taught me, and I wasn't able to ask for the help. So I sort of floundered around in college and didn't get a really good GPA, and then said, okay, well, I'm going to go for my master's degree in psychology, because that was supposed to be the next step. And I made it through that, and I thought, okay, taking care of a small person's mental health is a ton of responsibility that I'm not sure I'm ready to take on. Like, that was just too overwhelming to me to consider. And so I shifted, what do you do? And I originally was going to go get my PhD, but my grades weren't terrific. I didn't have a good focus on what I really wanted to do. And I didn't have anybody around to say, here's what you're good at. Here's where your talents lie. These are the ones you should cultivate, right? And so I said, well, I'll just go to work. because what else? So I went to, while I was in graduate school, I worked with children in group homes for several years. And then I think what happens when you're in a job, so you go into industry, you're in a job in nonprofits, and your leaders recognize what you're good at. And if you're smart, you will listen to them and say, yes, 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 I'll do that. And yes, I'll do that. And yes, I'll do that. So I think my leaders realized that I could write a sentence, a good sentence, right?
Yeah.
So I could write, and I was a yes person. If you asked me to do it, I would darn well do it. And I would do it well because I'm a perfectionist, because that's what happened to me. I became a perfectionist. So yeah, I do think I could have, I feel like, looking back, and I feel like I could have done more, but I had this, I don't think I had the confidence. I don't think I had the confidence to say, I can do that. And I'm going to try, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take the risk, right? I was not a big risk taker. And I do think that looking back, I feel like life in general is a series of shifts where, you're going and you're going and you're going and you think, I'm going right there to this place, right? And then all of a sudden life does what it does and you go like this and you're like, no, I still want to go over there. Whether it's job shifting or, bad things happen in life, because they do, that kind of, and then you're going this way and that thing is still over there. And then sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I didn't want to go there anyway. Right. So yeah. And I think, so that's what happened. So I got into nonprofits and started moving up and up and up, because you pay your dues in nonprofit. If you work with people, clients, you pay your dues, you cut your teeth in, group homes with overnight shifts and on-call duties and just the bottom of the barrel things that the higher up people don't want to do. So I worked my way through that. Well, then I moved after graduate school. I moved here, and then after a few years, I was dating a guy, and I thought we were going to get married, and then there was no married happening. And I'm like, yeah, this is I got things that I want to do. So I moved back and got a totally different job. I worked for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So it was my job. Taxing. Well, I was in the personnel psych, so industrial organizational psychology, and somehow somebody decided that I was going to head up this multi-million-dollar project to develop hiring and training standards for the 65,000 correctional peace officers in the state prison system in California. And I was like, really?
Wow.
Okay, well, that sounds like a great idea, but I can't do that. That's crazy. But you just do it, right? And I have always suffered from imposter syndrome. You know what that is, where you think, okay, I am going to do this, but I really, really hope that nobody figures out that I don't know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't. I'm going to try to fake it, but I don't know what I'm doing. So I did that. It was actually pretty great. I got to go into all of the state prisons where some of the worst offenders stay in solitary confinement 23 hours a day and only walk outside in a cement block with, they can only see through the ceiling. So I got to see all that. It was really amazing. And then I actually ended up working there for 5 years. But 6 months in, I was coming back to North Carolina to visit my friends, and I met my husband on the airplane.
Wow.
He lives here. So I moved all the way back to California thinking, I'm going to go back to California and I'm going to live there. I'm going to hang out with my family. I'm going to get a good job, which I did. And I got a house and a car and a dog. And then the man that I decided nearly immediately that I was going to marry lived 3,000 miles back the other way. So, I mean, we dated, we did a long distance thing for 5 years, and I turned around and came all the way back. And so here I am again. I'm near Charlotte, North Carolina, which is not the capital. So a lot of the government positions like prison systems and things like that, all the experience that I had out there doesn't apply in Charlotte, North Carolina, because there's really none of those administrative positions here. So I had to completely change and say, okay, well, what do I do? So I went back to nonprofits, and again, more shifts in, my trajectory that I planned, gone, done. So I went back to nonprofits, and I actually took a state position, state funded position, but we all know how government funding goes. When the administration changes and priorities change, and one day I was 7 months pregnant with my son, and I went to a meeting, and I was running I started up this program for, it was a collaboration between 4, 5, 6 different nonprofit organizations that served kids in foster care, and we were connecting really tough kids to really good foster families. But it wasn't working, and I told them in the beginning, I said, it's not going to work unless you can really place these kids right away and keep them in foster care without the parents going, I can't deal with this. So then I showed up to this meeting, and the head of the board says, by the way, I just talked to people at the state, and they are probably not going to continue the funding next year. And here I am. My husband had retired and from the wine business, and sold his business and retired for, he only ended up being retired for 6 months, but at the time he was retired. And so I had the health insurance. I'm 7 months pregnant, no money. I'm like, okay, well, I will have to do something different, So it was actually the best thing that ever happened, honestly. As I'm walking out of the meeting, my old boss that I worked for before I had moved back to California, he was on the board of that same organization. And he waves me down as I'm getting in the car, and he says, he's on the phone, he's like, hold on a minute. And he says, okay, I just want to let you know that our grant writer just quit. And just in case you decided to, go elsewhere. And I was like, yeah,
yeah.
Thank goodness, right? So I actually see, this is also funny. So when I went to California, when I left here, I was making about $45,000 a year, working in child mental health, doing a number of different things. When I went to California, I was making 75. And within 5 years, I was making 6 figures. Come back to California, back down to 70. And then I took the grant writer job down to 60. So life, you think you're going to get into a job and you're going to make this much money, and then you're going to make this much money and this much and this much. It doesn't. I'm on the phone. Goodbye. It has to get out. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. That's life.
You need to leave. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so
it's okay.
So yeah, so I'm back to North Carolina, changing jobs yet again and taking a pay cut. 8-year-olds. And I had never written grants. I'd written grants before, but never solely written grants. So I come into this position where the person who had the job before me had been had been gone for 8 months, and there was nothing. And so, I mean, literally trial by fire. And I start writing grants. I don't know anybody, I just know the people that I had worked with before. I knew the organization, obviously, but I was 5, 6, 7 years removed from whatever they were doing. So I had to learn everything they were doing over again, learn all the processes and procedures, figure out how to write grants, because I didn't know. All I knew I could write, but grant writing wasn't something I was totally familiar with. So since then, so I had my son, and obviously he's 8, and I started that job in 2009, and I left, is that right? No, 2011. I started the job. I left in 2016, and by that time I had made the organization like $5 million in grant funding, just grant funding. So I guess I was pretty good at it. I learned a lot. I learned an amazing amount. But I also think that when you work for a nonprofit, especially a large nonprofit, and you're the kind of person that is perfectionistic and wants to do the best thing for the organization, your duties and your salary start like this, and you go forward like this, and then your duties start to go like this, and your pay is like this, right? So, and I also think in some organizations, they will say, who is the person we know that will do it well and get it done? And that's where a lot of the work gets funneled. So I think by the end of it, I was working 50 hours a week, and I was writing all the grants for 3 separate organizations. They were all affiliates, and bringing in nearly $1 million a year with no clerical support, no help. And I remember one year I wrote 48 grants in a single year, which is almost 1 a week. And several of those were federal grants and large foundation grants. And I realized, like, what am I doing? So even though I thought I would stay there. And then one day, my boss came to me and she said, by the way, we're shifting things around and you're going to go work for one of our affiliates. And I was like, there were all these major changes going on, not just in my department, but all over the organization. And I said, well, okay. Okay. I called my husband on the way home and I said, I think I have to quit my job. And my husband was like, you don't need those people. They're running you, giving you the runaround. You quit your job. You go for it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go for it, right? So I went home. I wrote my letter of resignation and I sent it and they accepted it. And then I was like, oh, I just quit my job, right? Like, yeah. Oh my God, what did I do? So I decided to start my own consulting business. And that was in August of 2016. And I figured, okay, I know enough. I have experience. I had made contacts with many, many, many funders in around. And I had a friend who had started her own nonprofit consulting business in a city that was about an hour away from here. And so I thought, okay, I have a mentor. I'm going to take advantage of the mentor, and I'm going to take advantage of what I've learned. I'm going to start my own business. I had no idea what I wanted to do. But what I did was I went to a number of people, the most highly connected people in the city that I knew. And there was one guy. He was the guy to go to. And I said, can we meet for drinks? This was obviously when you could meet somebody for drinks before COVID. And he said, I am so glad that you did that you quit your job, because now I don't have to pretend that I like that organization you worked for. Oh. And I was like, thank you for saying that. You know? And just being willing to put yourself out there and find and think enough of yourself to say, I'm going to go to this person who I know knows everybody that is anybody, because he will tell me the truth. I don't care. Even if he said no, at least I would have tried, and I probably would have been really upset with myself if I hadn't tried. And he has literally been there ever since. So he's helped me and he sent me clients and he has really helped me grow my business. But what I didn't count on was so I quit my job. I was finished, I think it was late August. My mother went into the hospital in September because, you know, alcohol takes its toll over time, right? And she had had several episodes like this where she just simply would not refuse to take care of herself and didn't tell anybody that she was struggling, ended up in the hospital, and then we'd have to go and fix and, you know. So my mom ends up in the hospital in September. Turns out she had had bed bugs in her apartment and they hadn't been cleaned up and she had credit issues. And so I'm like, okay, I just quit. I don't have a job. It's okay. I can handle this. Right? And then I went for a mammogram and they called me back and they said, you need to come back in for 3D and all the thing, whatever. And so after that appointment, the nurse says, you know, do you want to sit down? And I'm like, okay, like that's weird. And then she called the radiologist in and she starts talking to me about spots and things, and you're going to have to come in for biopsies. And I was like, okay, like I'd had one before. They're like, no, you need to have there's one here and there's a spot here. And so then I'm like, oh, like this is okay. So that was in late September. And then I got the results and I needed lumpectomies because they found some bad cells. Okay, I can do this. So I had the biopsies, I think late September and October. November, my dog died.
Oh, no dog for the healing.
I know. December 12th, and this whole time I'm on the phone trying to talk to clients and potential clients and trying to network and stuff. And my mom's in the hospital and she's not doing well. She almost died. And she literally almost died. And I'm having to clean up her messes from 3,000 miles away. And it was a really terrible time. So then I had my lumpectomies in December and they said, yeah, you need to, because the whole time I was saying, look, can't we just go all out? But they said, no, you don't, genetically, there's no really cause to, you can just have the spots removed. And I was like, oh, I don't want to deal with that, right? Yeah. So after I had the lumpectomies, they said, okay, look, this is what we would recommend you do. Take tamoxifen, which puts you immediately into menopause. And I was 46 years old at the time. And potentially radiation. And you have to come back every 6 months and get alternating mammogram, MRI. And I was like, or I could just get a mastectomy prophylactically and be done with it, right? They're, oh, no, that's terrible. Well, after the lumpectomies, they were like, okay, you can do that.
I don't understand doctors sometimes. Like, I'm okay to do this. Are you okay to do this? Like,
so I made it a point every time I saw a doctor, I'm like, I just want it on the record one more time. I want them gone.
I'm glad that you fought for your health care.
Well, no, and nobody else
they have to.
does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody else does it. So luck of all luck, my husband's brother-in-law is a women's surgeon in Texas. Yeah. So this was mid-December when actually it was December 20th, just before Christmas, I got those final results. And my brother-in-law said, get it done and get it done now because it's going to come back. Well, A, it's going to get worse. B, even if you have lumpectomies and leave it at that, it's going to get worse. So my surgery was scheduled for January 18th. And on January 15th, I found out my mom had passed away. So yeah, so she had come out of the hospital in December, and there was no follow-up, and it was terrible. She ended up dying alone in her apartment. And so, yeah. So the 5 days later, I had a bilateral mastectomy, and then I had to have another surgery. And so, sorry. So I started my own business, but nothing really happened until I would
After
say
all
March.
this life, yeah.
After life, life kicked my butt for 6 months, whatever it was. And so then I really started working. I got a really good client, and ever since then, with one more surgery for, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there was a huge recall of breast implants because they cause cancer.
I think I just heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, and those were the ones I had. So I had them removed. Yeah, I had them removed. It was fine. I'm much happier now without that hanging over my head. So with the exception of that, I have just been sailing, and I'm at the point now where I make, I can make more. I make more every month than I ever did, and I work half the time.
It's amazing.
And if I had continued, I mean, who knows? Like, I couldn't have continued doing what I was doing at all of those different points in my life, right? And I think back, and now I'm doing what I love. I don't work a ton. I enjoy what I do, and I can make my own schedule and take my own vacation when I want to. And, it's like life hands you lemon after lemon after lemon, and then you make lemonade for a while, and then you get more lemons and you make some more lemonade, right? I think but I do feel like having somebody at that time when I was that age to say to me, hey, so what? Don't, so what if you're not going to become a child psychologist? That was your definition for life for yourself. You have the opportunity to change it anytime you want to, and it's okay. You learn it, but it only took me, when I'm 50, I just turned 50. It took me 50 years to learn it, but I might have learned it a little bit earlier if I don't know, if I'd had sort of that kind of a support during the time to be like, it's all good, deal, you're fine, you're gonna be fine. And the other thing I think is important to let young people know is that whatever decision you choose is the right one. That's it. Whatever decision, that's going to be the one that's right for you. So I think for folks like myself who didn't have that support and had to rely on my own decision-making abilities, which granted were not very good for, on several occasions, for somebody to be there to say, you have the confidence, you have the strength and the courage to make decisions for yourself, and they're all going to be fine. So
you are, first of all, amazing storyteller, which kind of makes sense. Like, just, you were like timeline, boom, 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 connect the dots. You are the epitome of like resilience and positivity and love, and I'm so lucky to have gotten to like learn about you and meet you today. So thank you so much for sharing all of that, and I'm sorry you had so many lemons at one point. You had a whole lemon tree.
What I was hoping is that the lemons were just because maybe there won't be many, going forward.
I hope so.
A really good thing is COVID is really not that big of a deal to me because I work from home.
Yeah.
I don't go anywhere. I love sitting, we live on the lake, and
nice.
I sit in my office, and it's wonderful. So hopefully my lemons were done for a while.
I hope so too.
That was my, yeah. Anyway.
I like don't even know what to ask because you just like nailed everything and shared so much. I'll ask one last question, but I'm just like, you're awesome. That's all I'm gonna say. And so you've mentioned like, if I had somebody, when I was younger, kind of helping me through these things, what's like a piece of advice that you would want to tell your younger self?
I would tell myself, I think that the issue that I had when I was younger, because I was so afraid to make a decision, I was so afraid to take the risk. And I think ultimately what I realized was all of your anxiety and all of the fear and the uncertainty and is this the right thing? Um, is so much worse than once you've done it. Even if you think it's wrong, you just do it. And then, like, for example, moving from here to California long ago, I agonized over that decision. For 2 years, I think I agonized over that decision because I was so afraid. I would try to put myself back in California around family, and I just couldn't visualize it. I don't know why that was important to me, but for some reason it really was. And when I got there, I remember just a month later thinking, why was I so worried about it? Like, this is awesome, this is amazing. And I wonder if that's what I think what I would say is just do something. Do something. It doesn't matter what it is. Even if you think it's wrong, do it. If it scares you, do it. Because you think too long about it and then you're mad at yourself for not doing it, but you're still too fearful to actually do it. And it becomes this, you just get stuck. So I think that I would say, you're okay. You're going to be okay. Just do something and don't be afraid to ask for help. I think what I started to realize is all of my feelings of inadequacy. I didn't want to tell anyone that I was scared or that I was, had no self-confidence in my ability to make a decision, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want people to recognize that in me. I think that was my thing. I wanted to be competent and strong, and even when I wasn't inside. So yeah, I think I would say, tell myself, you're okay. Everything's okay. You're going to be fine. It will turn out, and just do something. Do it. Just do it. It'll be great.
Yes, I think everybody needs to hear that, especially when a lot of students are like going into college or coming out of college and they're like freaking out about like jobs or what to do or what to take, myself included. And it's like, just try something. It's not permanent,
Yeah. It's not, and nothing is permanent. It's not. And if you hate it, you don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay there. I see people, and I think as you get older, you realize you're like better able to be like, I don't need to take that. Like, I'm not going to, you don't need to treat, because I think people get into jobs and they're like, I have to be in this job because I have a car payment and I have to pay rent and I have to, I need this job, I have to keep this job. No, you don't. No, you don't. Nobody has to keep doing something that they hate or that is wearing them down on a day-to-day basis. I've done that, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. We're here for as far as we know, such a short period of time, right? And a lot of people say this, and I say it now, whereas youth is wasted on the young because they don't have, because you don't know. And you also, I think it takes time to learn that, whatever, I'm not going to waste my time on doing something I don't want to do or that's not fun. I want to make the life for myself that I want, right? But I think young people are so, and it also has to do with the feelings of obligation and responsibility, and you want your parents to, your parents want to tell you what they think you should do, and you want to respect that, and but ultimately you are the one that has to inhabit that world and own those decisions. And so you don't want to make the decision that somebody else would make because you think they want you to do that. So, but I guess it takes time. I guess it takes time to learn that. I don't know.
Takes a few lemons and a few lemonades.
Yeah, it does. It does. But, I think I was looking at on on the Real Industry website, the picture of all of the people, like the young people and all the Zoom. And I was like, to have a village of that many people who feel that they're able to say what they want to say and express their fears and, get advice. And, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky to grow up in an age where it's more like open to having mentors or like having those like open group discussions. And now,
Yeah.
like, unfortunately, you didn't have that when you were like maybe my age, but you're able to provide that to people now, which is great.
Yes, that's what it's like a responsibility. It's the same as, when when you have kids. You don't have kids yet, do you?
Oh.
No. So what you learn about when you have kids is that you know absolutely nothing. Like, it's hard. It's really terrible and awful and painful and scary and wonderful and terrific and amazing. And, you just got to make it through the really hard parts. And so my best friend and I, she had kids right before I did. And I remember her calling me crying and being like, I can't do this, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. And then I had a kid and then I was calling her crying. Like,
Oh, no.
And so we took it upon ourselves to be like, look, ladies, all you people that are even thinking about or going to have kids or about to have kids, it could totally suck for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's totally fine. All of those women, and this is the thing, my best friend said this to me and she actually saved me, because I would look at these people just like I did when I was in college, looking at people who looked like they had their stuff together and they were on the track and they were going for it and they were confident. And it was the same when I looked at new moms. I look at these moms with babies and they always had like this perfect makeup and they were smiling and happy. And so I was talking to my best friend and I'm like, I feel like I'm not good at this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. She was like, honey, nobody knows. Nobody knows what they're doing. We are all just walking through life, making it up as we go, hoping it works. And sometimes it doesn't, but nobody knows. Don't compare yourself to any of those people because those ladies, they go home and cry.
Yeah.
All those ladies that say, I loved being pregnant, they are liars.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the other thing that I think I would tell myself. None of these people around you know what they're doing. They are making it up every day, just like you are. So go make this shit up and have fun making it up because there's no pressure.
Oh, the best advice.
So. Nobody knows. That's the advice.
You are awesome, Amy.
So.
Thank you for sharing your story and thank you for sharing such great advice. I really appreciate you.
Of course. It was fun.
I hope you have a great day.
I will.
Bye.